Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening a file that is, let's just say it's complicated.
That is putting it mildly.
We're looking at a figure who, just dominated the spiritual imagination of the late 19th century, yet half the history books will tell you she was a complete fraud.
And the other half treat her like a saint. We're talking about Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, HPB.
The Sphinx of the 19th century.
And she earned that nickname. Incredibly polarized.
Right, and that's usually where the conversation just stops. You're either on Team Mystic Genius or Team Charleston Plagiarist. But we aren't doing the biography today. We're not getting into the scandals or, the smoking tricks. We have two very specific stacks of research here that tell a different story.
We do. We've got this dense academic dissertation that looks at Blavatsky through the lens of philosophy, specifically pragmatism.
Okay.
And then we have the source material itself, a study course on her magnum opus, The Secret Doctrine.
The beast of a book. So our mission today is to look at the system she built. How did she try to weld science, religion, and philosophy into this one massive thing?
And what's actually in it? What are these stanzas of Dzyan?
Exactly. But before we get to the esoteric stuff, we have to set the stage. Because the late 1800s, it wasn't just top hats and steam engines. It was an intellectual bloodbath.
That's the perfect way to describe it. You have to realize that the lines between science and religion were being drawn in real time. It's what academics call boundary work.
That's turf wars.
Total turf wars for the nature of reality. On one side, you have science professionalizing. The amateur naturalist, the gentleman scientist is getting pushed out.
Right.
And the professionals are rallying around naturalism or materialism, the idea that if you can't weigh it or measure it, it simply doesn't exist.
And on the other side, you've got the church, which is absolutely reeling because Darwin had published On the Origin of Species just a few decades earlier.
So the Genesis story is on the ropes, and you get this vacuum. The church is losing its authority. Science is becoming cold and dogmatic.
And right into that vacuum comes spiritualism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seances, table tipping, mediums. And here's the key thing people forget. The spiritualists didn't see themselves as anti-science. They thought the seance room was a laboratory.
That's the part that always gets me. They thought they were proving the afterlife with scientific rigor.
They believed ghosts were just biological facts we hadn't explained yet. And then into this whole chaotic scene steps Blavatsky.
And she rejects all of it.
All of it. She tells the religious dogmatists they've lost the plot. But then she looks at the materialist scientists and says, you are trapped in a vicious circle.
Because if you only believe in matter, you can't explain the observer. You can't explain the mind that's doing the measuring.
Right. She argued that facts, like fossils or light waves, they don't speak for themselves. They need a narrative. And she thought the narrative of dead, soulless matter was just destructive.
She was so savvy about how she fought this battle, too. She used their own scientists against them. The research highlights Alfred Russel Wallace.
I mean, this is the guy who discovered evolution alongside Darwin. He's legitimate.
He is scientific royalty.
But Wallace was a devout spiritualist. He believed natural selection could explain the human body, but not the human mind, not art, not morality.
He thought higher intelligences must have guided that part.
And Blavatsky just grabs onto that and says, see, even your best guys know that dirt and water aren't enough to make a human soul.
She was a master at that. But this method of hers, taking a bit of this, a bit of that, it leads us right to the biggest criticism.
The plagiarism charge.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You can't read a modern critique without someone pointing out that the Secret Doctrine is basically a collage.
It is. She quotes, or, well, just takes, from over 2,000 sources. Hinduism, Buddhism, Kabbalah, contemporary geology.
Newspapers.
If she submitted that as a doctoral thesis today, she would be expelled. No question.
But this is where our first source, the dissertation, it flips the script. It says, maybe we're looking at this all wrong.
We're judging her by the standards of a modern historian, but she wasn't trying to write history.
She was doing something else. And the source brings up Richard Rorty and pragmatism.
Right. Rorty's a 20th century philosopher, but his ideas fit perfectly. Rorty argues that truth isn't found, it's made. It's not about mirroring reality, it's about language and what is useful for a community.
So truth is what works.
Essentially, Rorty talks about the strong poet, someone who doesn't just describe the world, they redescribe it. They create a new vocabulary. Blavatsky wasn't trying to be a scholar. She was acting as a A bricolier.
A bricoleur, that's the French term for like a tinker, right? Someone
Yeah.
who builds things from scraps.
Exactly. She took the scraps of her time anxiety about Darwin, fascination with the East, and she wove them into a new tapestry. She famously said, "I have made a nosegay of cold flowers and brought nothing of my own but the string that ties them." Okay, but that sounds a bit like a convenient excuse, doesn't it? I didn't steal your ideas. I was engaging in creative bricolage.
It does, but it all depends on her intent. Was she trying to trick people into thinking she was a traditional scholar? Or was she trying to break the spell of materialism?
A counter-mythology.
You need a story so big, so comprehensive, that it forces the mind to see the world differently.
So the plagiarism was the point. She was trying to show that all these different traditions were actually telling the same story.
That's the argument, that there's a single wisdom tradition running through all of history, and to prove it, she had to pull the threads from everywhere.
Which brings us to the foundation of that worldview, her book of Genesis, the Secret Doctrine.
Published in 1888, 2 massive volumes, a commentary on the Stanzas of Dzyan.
Which she claims is an archaic manuscript written in a secret language called Senzar. Now, whether the stanzas are real or she channeled them or wrote them herself, that's for you to decide. But we're here to unpack the system she built from them. And it is wild, but she boils it all down to 3 core ideas right at the beginning. The 3 fundamental propositions.
Okay, let's do it. Proposition 1, the absolute.
She calls it be-ness, not being.
Why the distinction?
Because being implies a thing, an entity. Be-ness is the root of all things. It's omnipresent, eternal, boundless. It's beyond thought. The moment you call it God or creator, you've limited it.
The source material uses the symbol of a plain white disk.
Yes, the cosmos in eternity, pure potential. Then a point appears in the center. That's the dawn of manifestation.
Okay.
And this leads to a key concept. Spirit and matter aren't opposites. In the West, we see it as God versus the world.
Soul versus body.
Right. But she says they're 2 sides of the same coin. One side is Parabrahm, spirit. The other is Mula Prakriti, matter. In the absolute, they are one. But when the universe manifests, they appear as 2. You can't have one without the other.
That's a great image. We're in the flip, so we only see one side at a time.
Yeah, okay.
Proposition 2, the law of cycles.
This is the idea that the universe breathes. It's not a straight line from a Big Bang to a heat death. It's an eternal rhythm.
The great breath.
Yes. The Hindus call it the days and nights of Brahma. A manvantara is when the universe breathes out billions of years of existence. Then it breathes in, and that's pralaya, rest, dissolution.
And it applies to everything, not just the cosmos.
Everything. Civilizations, sleep and waking, tides, life and death. It is the fundamental law. But, and this is key, it's not a circle, it's a spiral. Each time the universe reemerges, it's on a higher level.
So we're actually going somewhere. Which brings us to Proposition 3, the obligatory pilgrimage.
This is the answer to who am I? It states that every individual soul, or monad, is a spark of that universal oversoul.
We are all sparks from the same fire.
But a spark has to learn to be a fire, and that's the pilgrimage. Theosophy teaches this divine spark has to dive down into matter. It passes through the mineral kingdom.
Wait, so the rock in my garden has a monad in it?
Yes, but it's sleeping, latent. The spark has to travel through every form, plant, animal to acquire individuality. By the time it reaches the human stage, it knows, I am I.
This is a huge departure from Darwin. He says we evolved from animals because of random mutation, Blavatsky is saying.
What? She's saying Darwin is only looking at the glove, not the hand inside it. She proposes a triple evolutionary scheme. You have monadic or spiritual evolution,
The spirit wanting to learn?
intellectual evolution, the mind developing, and physical evolution. Darwin only saw the physical part. She argues the inner spiritual urge is what drives the physical change.
Okay, so we have the framework. One reality, cyclic law, and a pilgrimage from spark to God. But how does it all work? How does spirit actually move matter? The notes mention Fohat.
Fohat is the bridge. If you have pure idea on one side and heavy matter on the other, they can't touch. Fohat is the energy that connects them. The source calls it cosmic electricity.
The bridge by which the ideas in the divine thought are impressed on cosmic substance.
Exactly. Fohat is the will of the universe. It's the force that takes the blueprint and makes the dust swirl into a sun. There's a great line in the stanzas. Fohat hardens the atoms.
Hardens the atoms. I like that. It makes the dream solid.
And this leads to one of her most radical ideas. If spirit is everywhere and Fohat is everywhere, then there's no such thing as dead matter.
This is the lives concept.
Right. To a materialist, a table is just dead wood. To Blavatsky, every single atom is a life. It has a tiny degree of consciousness. The whole universe is alive.
That completely changes how you walk through a forest or even a parking lot.
It's not just stuff, it's sleeping spirit.
Okay, let's bring this down to the human level, because Theosophy says we have 7 parts. We're a septenary.
The 7 principles of man. It's her map of human psychology. And the most important thing to get is the war happening inside it. She splits us into a lower quaternary, 4 mortal parts, and an upper triad, 3 immortal parts.
Mortal stuff is pretty straightforward. Physical body, life energy, or prana. Then the astral body, the blueprint.
The linga sarira, yes. But the antagonist of the story is the 4th principle, kama.
Kama, desire.
Desire, passion, the animal drive, hunger, lust, anger. That is a king of the lower self.
And then the upper triad, atma, which is spirit, buddhi, intuition, and manas, the mind.
And here is the so what for you, the listener. The mind manas is the battleground. It's the link. It stands right in the middle between the animal, kama, and the god, atma buddhi.
So the mind can swing both ways.
Exactly. This is the struggle of the ego. The mind can look down and get tangled up with desire. That creates the lower manas, the selfish, calculating personality we usually think we are.
But it can also look up.
If the mind looks up and aligns with the spirit, it becomes the higher manas.
So the goal of life isn't just to be good. It's a structural operation. You have to detach your mind from your cravings and weld it to your spiritual intuition.
Precisely. Because at death, the lower quaternary falls apart. If your mind was totally stuck in your desires, that part of you just fades. But the part of your mind that aligned with spirit, that's immortal. That's what carries over.
It makes every thought a high-stakes choice. You're either feeding the animal or feeding the god.
That is the core of theosophical ethics.
Now, we can't do this deep dive without touching on her version of world history, the rounds and root races.
We have to clarify that term, root race. In the 19th century, race didn't mean ethnicity in the way we use it today. It meant a developmental stage of the entire human species.
Okay, phase of evolution. So where are we now?
We're in the 5th root race, often called the Aryan race, using the Sanskrit meaning of noble. It refers to our current intellectual epoch. But the really interesting stuff is what came before.
Lemuria and Atlantis.
Yes. The 3rd race, the Lemurians, that was the turning point. That's when humanity physically hardened. Before that, we were more ethereal. But in Lemuria, we got physical bodies, and the separation of the sexes happened.
And the paradox is that they had spiritual sight, the third eye, but no mind.
Correct. They were like innocent giants. They were one with nature, but couldn't think about it. They had no self-consciousness until the lighting of the manas happened. The spark of mind had to be given to them.
Which sounds a lot like the tree of knowledge. We gained a mind, but lost our innocence.
And that spiritual sight. By the time we get to the 4th race, Atlantis, we hit the bottom of the curve, the point of greatest materiality. They were brilliant, technologically advanced, but spiritually blind.
They traded the third eye for physical eyes.
And used their intellect for sorcery and domination. But here's the hopeful part, and I think why this still resonates. Blavatsky says we have passed the bottom of that curve.
We've made the U-turn.
We are now on the upward arc, evolving away from heavy matter and back towards spirit. But it's a struggle. We have to regain that spiritual insight, but now with our intellects fully online.
You know, that's a really interesting frame for the modern world. We have all this Atlantean-like technology and this deep sense of alienation. But she would say that angst isn't a bad sign. It's growing pains.
Exactly. It's the friction of the spirit trying to wake up inside the machine. Our dissatisfaction with pure materialism is the proof we're moving on.
So, to bring it all home, we have a Russian woman in the 1880s attacked by scientists and priests. So she rewrites the history of the universe.
She creates a system where atoms are alive, the universe breathes, and we're all ancient souls trying to remember who we are.
She wanted to re-enchant the world.
She was terrified the 20th century would be an age of spiritual death. She wanted to give us a framework where we could have both science and purpose.
And going back to Rorty, if that story helps you live a better life, if it makes you treat your neighbor and the planet with more reverence, does it matter where she got it?
Rorty would say if it offers a better habit of acting, it has a pragmatic truth.
Here's a final thought to chew on. Blavatsky implies that the universe itself is a story, a drama the absolute is telling to itself, through us. We aren't just the characters in the story. We are the storytellers.
And if we're on that upward arc, it means the ending isn't written yet. It implies we have the power, through that higher mind, to shape where the story goes next.
That puts all the responsibility right back on us.
A heavy responsibility, but an empowering one.
Well, thank you for guiding us through the cosmos today. That was a wild ride.
It always is with HPB.
And thank you for listening. Keep looking for the threads and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.